welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewsmuseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley.
Hey, are we getting good at this?
We have been pros since day one. What are you talking about?
I don't listen to the early ones.
I have not. I don't want to go back and listen.
I have not either. I think it'd be more cringy for me, the editor. Okay, so this episode is another Drewsflash because we've got some stuff we want to cover, and we felt more ready to cover this stuff than to jump into a whole topic. So
good way of putting it. We'll do some other things at the top, and then we'll get into what, the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Yes. What you're all waiting for us to address.
Right. So let's start with something more positive. We got a very sweet email from Amanda.
You've got mail.
And Amanda had previously contacted us after our Mad Love episode with a really cool graphic that she made of locations that she'd visited in Washington from the film. And Amanda's a graphic designer, and she has a website at airbornedesigns.com. And she's just been such a wonderful person. And she sent us another fantastic email. So I cropped it down a little bit because it was a little long, but this is the gist of it.
Okay. I wanted to tell you the latest since I really appreciate your compliments of my work when I sent you my Mad Love Then and Now design a few months back. You helped me feel very seen. Thank you.
Oh,
I love that so much.
I know, me too.
Your podcast was part of my confidence building ritual before my meeting with the recruiter for a job I was up for, and I can't thank you enough. Your recent episode with Mona May was so huge. Congrats on that experience and making real treat for us to listen to as usual. I rewatched Everyone Kissed after and cannot believe you own one of the original dresses. You are the absolute coolest. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate what you both do so much. Your website's wonderful. Your social brings me so much joy, and your podcast logo typography is absolutely gorgeous.
Ooh.
So many compliments in there.
I know. Credit to my cousin Roxy, who did our podcast logo. She I'll just do a quick shout out for her. She has a really cool nursery decor business that she started called Lucky Puffin, and they're on Etsy, and she did some great stuff for my daughter's nursery. But anyway, back to Amanda. Thank you. This was a very sweet email to get, and it was very meaningful to both of us.
Thank you so much, Amanda. When we get comments like this where people it's not just about the compliments, it's about I don't know, if we can bring joy and uplift people.
I was just going to say that, if we just know we're making someone happy or entertained, awesome. That's so cool.
We are people pleasers first.
Yeah, well, true.
Okay, so we would be getting into the kind comments corner around now, but this is going to be a different week. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but Drew's under a little bit of pressure right now. And I was trying to think of a way to describe the kind comments corner that would be the opposite of kind comments.
About curt comments corner.
The curt comments corner. I like that.
Yeah, we're not going to read those things. There's a lot of negativity out there, and that's not what we're all about over here at How Do You Drew?
Yes, but after one more little positive thing, we'll get into that. So what did you pull for this week in Drew history?
Okay, here's a lovely one. So September 20th, 2009, Drew attended the Emmy Awards, where she was nominated for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Miniseries or Movie for Grey Gardens. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, she lost out on that award to her co-star, Jessica Lange. But who better to lose out on it
than the person you helped make the film.
Yeah. She attended with Justin Long. And it's funny because this was still when they were we're not dating, but clearly they were. Chris Miller was also there. Also, Nancy Javonen and Jimmy Fallon were there. So there's a cute picture of the little Flower Films crew.
Aw.
Her bird tattoo was I just feel like it was really on display at this time. And it's so weird because that was the only one she had on her arms back then. And now she has so many.
Yeah, that's true. Because did she have the two, is the sardine and the breathe?
And Frankie and Olive and Home Is Where We Are.
All on that arm?
No, they're that on both arms.
But either way, yeah, that is so interesting. But yeah, we got to get into this gorgeous look, can't we?
Yeah, do it.
This is probably one of the most feminine looks that I'm a really big fan of hers. Like,
ooh, okay.
Like it has it's so dreamy. So I guess I could describe it a little bit. So it's a pink blush dress that was designed by Monique Lullier. This is 2009. So we went through 2009. If you listen to our episode, you heard us talking about all the wacky looks.
Wacky looks is a good way of putting it. This is not one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I assume this has got to be a fave of yours, right?
I mean, she has just like a pink fluffy cloud in it. So yeah, I do really like this one. It doesn't spring to mind like off the top of my head, but when I see it, I'm like, oh, this is so lovely.
Yeah, lovely is a perfect word.
I think I said it 3 times. Yeah, it fits.
That's our word for this week. Last week it was cute. So cute.
Yeah, right.
And this week it's lovely for this. Okay, so I guess we can now get into what's new with Drew now that we've gone through some lovely things.
What's new with Drew this week? Not much.
I don't know.
The entire internet hates her. Oh boy. Okay. We're trying not to make light of it, but
let's just start by saying we don't hate Drew. We have not turned on her, but we want to talk about what's going on. We think it's really important to talk about this. And I'm actually glad it's happening on a Drewsflash so we can kind of like give it some attention.
Really get into it. Exactly.
Editor's note, everyone. This episode was recorded on Thursday, September 14th, before Drew posted the now deleted video statement that didn't really change her stance, and before the original text statement was deleted from her Instagram. And on September 17th, a couple days before this episode was released, Drew posted this on Instagram. I have listened to everyone, and I'm making the decision to pause the show's premiere until the strike is over. I have no words to express my deepest apologies to anyone I've hurt, and of course, to our incredible team who works on the show and has made it what it is today. We really tried to find our way forward, and I truly hope for a resolution for the entire industry very soon. And once again, we don't talk about that in the episode since it was recorded beforehand. We thought it was important to at least briefly address that so that we're on top of the news as best as we can be. Okay, back to the episode.
We're just going to go kind of beat by beat with the facts of what's going on. We are not trying to say that we are in agreement with what the Drew Barrymore show has decided to do. We are not saying we are against Drew. Like, it's complicated.
Yeah, I guess we'll just summarize really quickly before we jump into this. So Drew's show, the Drew Barrymore show, has decided to return as they planned to, despite the fact that there are some strikes going on. And we're going to talk about, like we said, the facts regarding that. People are very upset because there's a huge writer's strike. So it's SAG-AFTRA and involves the WGA unions, right?
Yeah, they're both striking separately.
So let's get into it. So because the fact that Drew's show announced that they were coming back, despite with what was going on, and then Drew had to make a statement. Anyway, let's get into it.
Okay, so yeah, Drew put a statement on Instagram, and it was clearly written by her and not a PR person. And I'm not saying that's like necessarily a bad thing because it is like coming from her and being genuine, but it's a little messy. Like, I had to read it a lot of times to really understand what she was trying to say. I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah. And I think I read it a couple times because I was trying to figure out what was being skirted around here.
Yeah. I pulled just like 2 quotes from it that I feel like we should talk about. So the first was, I am also making the choice to come back for the first time in the strike for our show. That may have my name on it, but this is bigger than just me. I own this choice. And I think what she's trying to say here, but didn't, and maybe should have, is like she's trying to come back for the rest of the crew who want their jobs. Like, that's what I'm taking away from this.
But what I also take from it with that last part is that she is willing to kind of be the fall guy. It's her name.
Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other producers and people involved with the show, but she's going to be the one taking the brunt of the pushback, which has certainly happened.
Yes. So one more quote that you pulled. I want to be there to provide what writers do so well. which is a way to bring us together or help us make sense of the human experience. I hope for a resolve for everyone as soon as possible.
Yeah, so it's almost like I want to keep this show going so that when the strike is over, we're here. But like almost like if the show doesn't come back, we might not have a show, you know? We don't know what CBS or anyone has kind of demanded happen. We don't.
Yeah, that's true. This felt like very Drew to say, to help us make sense of a human experience, because she also talks about the fact that the show started during the pandemic and they feel like they're prepared, or at least like they've been through, bad stuff before and the world moves on sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to grasp if you're a striking writer or supporting striking writers.
Totally.
But I'll just say also, I'm waiting for Drew to make another statement, basically, at this point.
I've been every day checking, but we don't have one as of this recording. There was a really great Twitter thread by a user at Slack to the Future. And really, this person broke down kind of what the issue is, because this is sort of confusing. There are real different rules for daytime talk shows. There's different rules for all this stuff. But basically this user said her talk show's covered under SAG-AFTRA's net code contract, which is not on strike. So as long as she doesn't promote her old movies on the show, she's not violating SAG-AFTRA. And there's a statement from SAG that we'll read, but she's good with them. That's not where the problem is.
Okay.
The problem is the show is covered under the Writers Guild's film and TV contract. So even though she's not a member, her show had 3 writers who are currently out on strike. And that is where people are getting upset.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read the WGA statement. This is their reaction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they said the Drew Barrymore show is a WGA covered struck show that is planning to return without its writers. The Guild has and will continue to picket struck shows that are in production during the strike. Any writing on the Drew Barrymore show is in violation of WGA strike rules. So that's just a fact about them.
Yeah, and that's why they are picketing the show.
Yes.
And again, just to clarify, we're good with SAG. Here's their official statement. The Drew Barrymore show is produced under the Network Television Code, which is a separate contract and is not struck. It is permissible work, and Drew's role as host does not violate the current strike rules. So again, she's not in trouble with SAG. It's just the Writers Guild for the show.
Do we want to mention the fact that Drew bowed out of the MTV Awards because of the SAG-AFTRA strike?
Yeah, and that could be part of what is upsetting people, because at the beginning of the strike, it seemed like she was really, in support and kind of was one of the first people to publicly pull out of something when the strike started. So I think it feels like a 180 to people.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I mean, people are looking for somebody to be a hero and also be the opposite of that, I think. Also,
villain.
Yeah. Okay, so you also pulled some quotes from people who work on the Drew Barrymore show. You had mentioned that there are some WGA members. So do we want to read a couple of these?
Yeah. They gave public statements, so I think it's okay for us to read them. The first comes from Chelsea White. And Chelsea said, I think in general, this is obviously bigger than us 3 writers on the Drew Barrymore show. It is a bummer to hear that the show is going back because it sends a message that union writers are not valuable. And it goes directly against what the WGA, SAG-AFTRA, all the unions are trying to band together to stand up against the greedy studios.
Wow. Okay, so then Christina Kenyon, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm disappointed, but I understand that everybody has to do what they feel is best for them. For me and the WGA writers on the show, it's important for us to stick with our union. We deserve a fair contract, so we are here today outside.
Makes sense.
They're literally striking right outside Drew's show.
Yeah, which is kind of wild, but
yeah.
And this last one comes from Liz Coe, and Liz doesn't seem to have any anger against Drew or the show. She said, I think it's such a complicated issue. I think that Drew cares about the show. She cares about the crew. She cares about us. She cares about everything. Totally true. I think she made the best decision that she could, given all those things. And I feel like coming out here today is not a personal thing at all. It's really the opposite. It's a collective thing. So I feel like Liz's sort of take on things makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And tracks with sort of how I view everything.
Yes, exactly. That I feel like there's no way that any of this comes from a bad place in Drew. And I don't think that there's greed involved on her part. I think it's I almost want to say, unfortunately, she's like caring about, other elements of this decision, maybe not knowing how harsh this response would be.
Yeah, I would imagine not.
But I also am, again, like waiting for her to respond. And also, like, I don't think that people will be able to continue staying mad at this person. Like, I think that Drew, everything that she does comes from a place of care, in some way. I don't know.
Well, we'll get into it a little further on, like kind of what this backlash has been like.
Yes. Okay. So another comment from Christina, same as above. This is a newer statement. I personally understand that everybody has to make the best decision for themselves. I know that this show has a crew of hundreds of people who need to be paid, and I understand the perspective of wanting to protect your cast, your crew, and your staff. I would love to see this show stand in solidarity with us, and it's not too late. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the writers sort of also feel that Drew's coming from a place of wanting to take care of the whole rest of the crew. And again, please, I don't want anybody to misconstrue what we're saying. We're not saying like, so she should have done this. Like, we don't know enough about the inner workings of all this to really have an educated opinion on it. We're just sort of trying to report what's going on.
Yeah, because it impacts somebody we literally podcast about every week.
Right.
So, and it impacts them, and it's about them, and we kind of feel like there's a responsibility for us to discuss it. I mean, I've had friends like tell me like, "What's up with your girl?" I'm like,
I know.
I don't know, but we'll talk about it. So
yeah, Jason brought it up as we were going to bed last night. I'm like, honey, she might have messed up, but I don't want to talk about it while I'm going to sleep.
So this is our way of getting it out there for, we love Drew and we want people to understand as much as we can understand.
And just like, I want facts, because you'll see there's stuff that already people are misconstruing, and that drives me up the wall.
Yes.
And one of the things is this weird incident that happened the first day of filming where there was 2 audience members. They were given pins as they went into the show. They put the pins on. Anybody who's ever gone to a television taping, there are rules about what you can wear. You can't have logos or like certain sayings on your shirt. Like there are particular rules you're supposed to abide by, because they can't take like responsibility for whatever your shirt says, right?
Yeah.
So that's my understanding. Like they had these on and the security guard told them they had to take them off. And it just totally snowballed into this huge thing that with headlines everywhere about how they got verbally assaulted and kicked out of the show. And I really feel in my heart it has been majorly blown out of proportion, but that's just me. I wasn't there. Maybe it was really bad.
I was just going to say the only reaction I have, and the first thing I thought was, well, maybe they thought there was going to be a disruption because of it.
Yeah. And that's also totally a possibility.
But it's hard to like assume that, if somebody's like just showing support, I don't know.
And this is like a CBS security guard whose job is to make sure these things don't happen. Like, they obviously should have handled it better, because it's like made things so much worse. But do you want to read the response the show gave?
Yes. So the show's response to what happened is, it is our policy to welcome everyone to our show tapings. Due to heightened security concerns today, we regret that 2 audience members were not permitted to attend or were not allowed access. Drew is completely unaware of the incident, and we are in the process of reaching out to the affected audience members to offer them new tickets.
Yeah, like kind of what you said, like they didn't know if that was going to be a disturbance. Like there's angry people. I can see not wanting to let some really, possibly angry people into the show. Like if you're a security guard and that's what your job is, I don't know.
I guess there are a couple of things like, for them to be like, Drew was completely unaware. It's sort of hard, I think, for people to realize Drew is both like very proud to be the face of her show. Even in her statement was like, it's, I own this decision, all that stuff. And then to have them be like, but she didn't know, so don't blame her.
Yeah.
Like they're almost like making an obvious statement. Like, we made a decision for her because we are upping security concerns. I don't know.
No, I agree though. But also we've been to a lot of show tapings, and I don't think the host is always aware of what the security guards are letting come in. Like, it's just not how it works.
Definitely not. I also am saying that like not as an excuse. It's just sort of like of course Drew didn't know.
This is what people are seeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then things just keep, spiraling.
Yep.
Next, we had the National Book Awards that Drew is supposed to host. She has been let go from that because writers are very angry that someone who they feel is crossing the picket line is going to host a ceremony about writers. So I'm laughing, not because it's funny. I'm just like, oh my God.
It's just, what kind of timing is this?
I know.
So National Book Awards statement was, in light of the announcement that the Drew Barrymore show will resume production, the National Book Foundation has rescinded Miss Drew Barrymore's invitation to host the 74th National Book Awards ceremony. Our commitment is to ensure that the focus of the awards remains on celebrating writers and books, and we are grateful to Miss Barrymore and her team for understanding in this situation. So my reaction to this when I read it was, okay, I think maybe it is about the writers, but it's also about not letting the show become another place where people can like make a scene over Drew.
Yeah.
This is almost like a security issue as well.
Right.
To be honest.
And they're like, let's just keep it simple and
let's remove her from the situation. Like, it doesn't feel necessarily Drew Barrymore is the worst and we're removing her from the show.
No, it definitely doesn't sound that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it even sounds sort of like they came to, an understanding at the end of this, like, hey, this isn't going to work out. And Drew's team said, yep, got it.
Yeah.
I understand.
Hopefully. But it's a bummer. We were excited about that.
I know. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
Howdy Drewbies. We want to tell you about our sponsor, Positive Medium. We've actually been clients of theirs for at least 10 years, and they take care of all of our website needs for thedrewsam.com.
They offer custom web design and professional coding, search engine optimization, marketing, and hosting. So we've been hosted by them, but we've also been able to take advantage of a lot of their expertise in these other areas as well.
Absolutely. So customer service is the biggest draw for us with this company. They have saved our site literally from obliteration quite a few times. But then they also help us with minor issues in just like literally a matter of minutes. So if we have like a coding question or just like something on the back end we can't figure out, we reach out to them and we get an answer back and the issue is solved within moments.
We're so excited that Positive Medium is allowing us to offer our listeners 25% off managed WordPress hosting plans using our promo code DREW, D-R-E-W, of course. And if you want to take advantage of this, visit positivemedium.com. We really, really vouch for these people. They've been so great to us and will continue to be great to us. I can only imagine.
I mean, they're great by offering this to our listeners. So take advantage. Again, it's promo code DREW, of course.
With all of that said, and obviously we've already mentioned it, there has just been a really intense public backlash from this. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm paying way more attention to Drew than anyone else out there, but this feels like very intense to me.
Yeah.
And we've never really seen her come under fire this way. So all of her social accounts are flooded with comments about this. Like, every comment is like giving her shit.
Yeah.
There's been a couple I've thought were actually very reasonable and very well stated. And I've even like given a little like to those comments.
Yeah. One that I saw that I was curious about, but I haven't looked into, was somebody said like, other talk shows are paying their staff even though they're not working. And I didn't know if that was true, but
yeah, I think I had heard Seth Meyers was maybe doing that, but
okay.
And maybe that's the case. Maybe, I'm sure if Drew did that, everybody would be really happy. But maybe we don't know the situation. We don't know
anything about the business, sadly.
I mean, it is pretty crazy how many people are coming for her. There's been dozens and dozens of news articles about this. I saw something. So this is sort of what I was talking about earlier, on Reddit in the FOMOA sub. The top comment on there, so like the one with the most like thumbs up or whatever, it goes on about how she was born into wealth and has probably never had to work a day in her life.
They need to listen to our podcast.
I know. Of course,
Wait, that has a bunch of likes? No.
Oh, like 2,100 people thumbs up. Yeah. So I, me, I like stewed over it for probably like half an hour. And I was like, I have to write a response. I just have to. Like,
did you?
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I was like, hey, I'm not saying what she did is okay. I just think you have a ton of misinformation and you should have the facts. Like, and I was like, her grandfather died penniless. Her father was literally unhoused for almost his entire adult life. And like, she was raised by a single mother. She was emancipated at 14 and lived by herself and supported herself with minimum wage jobs. Like, me with misinformation being put around.
She's a self-made gal.
Yeah. And I just like, you can be upset about what she's done without making up these weird like misconceptions. There's just, and of course there were also the like, well, of course Steven Spielberg's her godfather, so she had opportunity right from since she was born.
Oh
and
my God.
Like, that's actually not true. Anyway, yeah. So this is sort of what's out there. The level of vitriol seems disproportionate with the situation in my eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of like, why? Maybe it's because she's just got this sweetheart reputation and I think people expect more from her and they're really disappointed. And then this article from Vulture came out that sort of said exactly that. And I really want to talk about it.
Okay, let's hear about it because I haven't read this yet, but you said it's really good and you and I have a lot of the same stance. So I expect myself to just be shaking my head.
Yeah.
But let's hear it.
So it's called The Backlash Came for Drew Barrymore. It's by Joseph Adelayan and Catherine Van Arendonk. I pulled a lot of quotes because this has been really extreme, the reaction to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it starts off right at the top saying Barrymore feels like one of the few major celebrities to get the full Game of Thrones shame bell treatment. And
I don't know what that means.
Oh, you've probably seen the memes. It's like a lady walking through the streets with a bell and it says shame, shame. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
that kind of is what's happening.
They also said that her public identity is, quote, beautiful, delicate empath. And so that's sort of what I was saying. Like, people are disappointed because they're seeing like, oh, we thought she was this, beautiful, delicate empath. And now she just seems like this greedy, out of touch celebrity.
But it sort of seems like, how can you put the image of who Drew Barrymore is right now, of the woman who gets on her knees in front of her guests?
Yeah.
Like, how do we equate that to being how she's like being villainized right now? It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another quote from the article. It's also worth noting that media coverage has emphasized a Drew Barrymore strike angle in the last week, and there's been much less emphasis on the other daytime shows doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a circular effect. A piece about Drew Barrymore creates interest, which inspires more pieces about Drew Barrymore as a strikebreaker, which solidifies the narrative of her as an especially egregious offender, which further fuels the rancor.
And I love that.
Absolutely. Because that's how it works. It's like, everyone's talking about this. We also need to write it and we need to have a take on it. Okay, so the quote continues. It's understandable, but it's also an incomplete picture of what the daytime talk landscape is right now.
Yeah. And The View has been on the air, I guess, all summer.
Okay.
And Kelly and Mark, or whatever that show is now with Kelly Ripa, they're back. Jennifer Hudson's coming back. So again, I was like, am I just like seeing this because I don't care about them and I don't look for them?
Yeah. Or is it because Drew made a statement?
And because Drew is who she is and people feel a certain way about her.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like the thing with the algorithms. Like the more popular it gets, the more popular it gets. Like the more likes it gets, the more likes it gets.
It's kind of inexplicable at this point.
Uh-huh. But then they also, kind of talk about how this probably wasn't approached the best way it could have been by Drew or her team or the show. And I kind of agree with that. They said, you'd think by this point, someone involved with the Drew Barrymore show would have realized the potential for fury and come up with a better plan to explain their side of things. And I really think if that had been done at the start, maybe this wouldn't have gotten so out of control.
I also wouldn't be surprised if Drew offered it and they were like, really? You want to just be the one to make the statement? And she probably was like, they know me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Couldn't you see that?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I agree. I don't think that anyone could have anticipated the reaction.
And I don't really know like what sort of PR team she has. Like
Yeah.
for a long time, it was basically just like Chris Miller speaking on her behalf in the press.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's much bigger now, but we don't know fully.
Like I sort of feel like she needed somebody to kind of think through this better and come up with a better statement. But
yeah,
okay.
I mean, it's still early on in this happening, you know?
Yeah.
One more quote. As much as it's fun to be distracted by the kooky, beloved talk show host turns out to be disappointing narrative, we can't forget that the real power and avarice lies elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Like Drew is not the one who's like not paying the writers what they need to be paid, but she's part of the system. And I think people really had hoped that she would sort of like take a stand to be quote unquote more on their side.
Yeah.
And people are really, really upset that she didn't.
Yep, they are. Okay, so I'm glad that we've addressed this now. I feel like I understand what's happening, and now I'm just waiting for what happens.
I know.
And Drew, you know, we know that if you're listening, we know that you didn't mean to do anything that would hurt anyone, and you never would.
I know. Like, you know, her heart is in the right place. Also, I do want to say we have gotten a couple sources that are unnamed who have told us she's doing okay. She's really strong and like she's surviving this this really rough time. And I just thought it would be good to share that information with you guys.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, a little mini episode this week, but I'm glad we got into that. And you guys feel free to reach out to us and tell us what you think about this. In a nice way. We don't want any curt comments, corners. So thank you guys for listening to a little mini episode. Don't worry, we'll be back with bigger episodes. We've got kind of a funky schedule coming up, but we also have some good episodes in the works. So go ahead and rate, review, subscribe. We got a really awesome new review on Apple Podcasts that we will talk about soon. And then go visit us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod for podcast things. And then at Drewseum for other Drew stuff. I'm sure we'll be sharing whatever goes on next with this whole situation over there.
Yes. Okay. And then don't forget to visit our website at howdoyoudrew.com. Got a little facelift recently. So visit it even if you've already visited before. Send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com. And my question to take us out today, I feel like it's got to be something bright and fun. Ooh, I know. What was your favorite toy when you were a kid?
Ooh. You know, this is such a random one, and I don't even know if I'd call it a toy, and I don't know why it popped into my head, but I have this giant map of the United States, and every state had a little circle, and under that circle, you could like rotate to see like the state bird or the Capitol, and there was like this little magnifying glass that was attached to the whole big board that you could use to like look at the circles.
What?
It's kind of hard to explain, and I would have no idea how to like search for it, but I would love to see it again. It would be one of those things that would like instantly take me back, like intense nostalgia.
I feel like there's a lot of like tactileness to that because you have like a thing to like turn and like a looking thing. That's so cool.
Yeah, but like what a nerd. Like state capitals is my favorite toy. Oh my God.
That feels very you somehow. And now I don't know if I have an answer. The reason why I asked it was because I looked up and I saw a box of Legos.
Oh.
I thought of Legos and I was like, I'll ask about toys.
Yeah, I actually have like a pretty intense nostalgic memory of my Lego container. Like I had this like red box that said Lego on it, and I had Legos inside of it. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And my mom made a container for my brothers and I. We had a lot of Legos, and she made this big like pouch out of jean that when you like opened it up, it would lay flat. So it was like a blanket.
Wow.
And then it had like strings to close it. Like you would just like close the bag and then it would like anyway.
That's really fun.
So even though I didn't have a toy reply necessarily, like we can talk about Lego. So if you want to talk about Lego.
Yeah. And we also have a little voice that's been peeping in here. Sorry if you like, what is that sound?
I think also maybe that's another thing that made me think of toys. I was like,
this little baby right here.
children and the ways that they experience the world. Okay, everyone, we will see you next Tuesday.
Hopefully with happier news.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you. Thank you.